Welcome to the Remix, the video podcast that keeps you in the mix of everything real estate. I'm Noelle Freisen.
And I'm Eric Anderson, and we're so excited to be here today. We're going to talk about how to turn your flips into a development site. Very, very exciting guest we have. Noelle, who is it?
Well, first, as always, we have Omar Sharif. We all know him. We all love him. But
Some love him.
We all love him. Really exciting is we have Yousuf Khan.
Ooh.
Yousuf started out in flips, and now he is a big-time developer, very handsome and young. How are you, Yousuf?
Thank you very much
Yousuf.
for
Welcome.
those kind words. Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And so
how did you go from flipping to developing and not flipping to flopping?
We're just getting right
we're
into
just
it.
going to get right into it.
Yeah.
I flopped into development. That's what happened.
How did you get into
I'm
flipping
just
first? What made you?
Yeah. How'd you get into
flipping? My first, if you're really gonna go back, my first interaction or exposure to real estate, construction, building is my father had a business that he transitioned into building houses in Jersey City, Bayonne, that sort of thing. And I saw that, and he moved very quickly. This was early 2000s. He moved very quickly from house to house between Jersey City and Bayonne, and then went up and built a development in Bayonne, 18 units, 2 commercial, right at the peak of, it was finished right at the peak of the 2008-2009 crisis.
Oh, those were the good days.
Yeah, those are the that's what we call them around the dinner table. That's what we call them, the good old days. Terrible situation, actually. Condos, they were selling as condos, and nothing was selling. Like, I think he was asking, I don't know, $300K a piece for these 2-bedroom, 1,200 square foot condos. I mean, he did great work, so on and so forth, but nobody was buying them.
Yeah.
He ended up, around that time, I was in college. In the summers, I was going out and helping him out with whatever he needed done, and I was just like, man, this is a terrible business. Like, you could really, lose your shirt over one project, right?
You could really flop.
You could really flop. It's just not a TV. It's just not only just it's a TV show's reality, right? So he figured out some way to rent them out and so on and so forth, and made it work. And by the time I finished school, I knew I wanted to do something on my own, and I was trying to figure that out. I tried all different things. I ended up working with my father, helping him out on the construction side of things. I started taking my own contracting jobs. I became a real estate agent. I loved real estate. I thought it was, interesting, and I just fell into it. I knew I wanted to do my own thing, so I started. That's where the flips came in.
Yeah.
So how many flips have you done in your short? Aren't you like 30-something?
35 years old.
Wow, young guy. So how many flips have you done in your 35 years?
I haven't put them all together, but I'd
Give me a range.
say
5,000, 4,000, 300, 50?
Yeah, about 40.
40 to 50?
40 to 50 flips,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
That much,
And what was the most amount of money you ever made? Because you're sitting across from our chief flipper.
That's right.
He's our chief
That's right.
flipping
Let's compare
officer,
numbers.
Omar Sharif.
I don't think I could compare to the great
You can't compare to
chief.
Omar.
No, I can't.
But so what was the most money you made on a
let me
flip?
think about that. Yeah, so I would say probably in the 400,000 or 500,000 range.
400 or 500 on one flip?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Omar, is that good?
No, it's amazing. But what
Okay.
type of flip was it? I'm guessing. Hold on, before you even answer it, I'm guessing that must have been you got approvals and you sold the land. You flipped the land.
Oh, if you count those.
I thought that would be it.
Oh,
No, I was
it's
talking
more.
about actual you buy the house, you fix it, or
Okay.
you ground
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in land entitlement deals, there's a lot more money. I think I probably made 800 on one of those.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice.
So.
Okay.
So
Good
he
numbers.
qualifies.
More than qualified.
All right.
That's
Oh,
why
I
I said-
get to stay on the.
That's why I said-
You get to stay. You get to stay here.
All right. That's good.
So you made 400 to 8. So on a regular house type flip, your best number was like 4 to 5.
Yeah.
But on an entitlement where you took a piece of dirt,
Yeah.
you went for zoning approvals,
That's
you got
right.
it approved for X, and you made $800,000 on a deal. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that why you became a developer? Did you say, "Oh my God, if I can make 800,000 on this flip"?
Right.
No, but hold on. If you made 800,000, why didn't you keep doing that?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
even
I
get
mean,
into
yeah,
it?
why didn't you?
So
I know.
there's all right. So what I realized is that I mean, I know we skipped over the whole timeline of like how I got here, but let's just say, when we're talking about entitlements, what I realize is that when it comes to deals, right, you could look at it and you could say, okay, maybe I could rent this, maybe this has some sort of zoning rights where I could do something else there, or maybe I could, knock it down, build new, right? So when it comes to places that have zoning for something bigger, right, in terms of multifamily development, commercial, so on and so forth, usually the amount of money you make is baked into it's a kind of it's correlated to the risk, really, right?
Yeah.
Because in a town, let's say that it's very hard to get approvals. Right? I mean, I'm being vague, but let's just say it's very hard to get approvals. If you're able to do that, your payday is probably better than a town like Jersey City, where what you're buying for and what it would sell as approved, the spread is very thin,
Okay.
But why not just build it too? Like,
so that's the thing, right? Like, when you get to that point, not everybody can. That's the other thing I realize is that people sell in different, aspects of the deal, right? In terms of timeline, right? Like somebody can get something under contract and then assign it, right? Somebody can buy that and let's say, in my example, go for land entitlements and then flip it to a builder, a developer that's going to take it to whatever it's going to be, right? And all those times there's some sort of spread in those situations, right? For most people in this real estate business, I mean, to go from flipping and let's say just having the approvals to actually getting it built, and as you guys may know, there's a lot more that goes into it, right? You're talking about you're getting a construction loan. You have, you probably, if you don't have the capital yourself, you probably have investors. There's some sort of capital stack, right? Like, I mean, a project. I think the project that I kind of mentioned, I mean, that was probably like a $5-6 million project. So that, a person who's just buying land at $800,000, $1 million is not going to be able to get it. Most people can't take it to that level, right? And that's kind of part of the journey that I had trying to figure that part out, right? So
what was hard? What was hard? Like, obviously you made $800,000. You probably said, like, Omar and I just became developers in the last year. Yeah. And we're still learning every day. Some days are great, some days are not so great.
How's today?
But today I would say 50-50.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we saw that we're gonna make $2 or $3 million off this project as opposed to 800. We never did an entitlement flip. I never did an entitlement flip.
Yeah.
As soon as the first entitlement I ever did, I reached out to Omar. I'm like, we just need to build this.
Right.
And he was like, well, I did 50 houses, so we can build this. And I said, okay, let's do it. So
yeah. So I was 10 short, I guess, from you. Right?
So it's like, why did you not just build that first entitlement? I still don't. Or was 800,000? It was like so cool.
It's actually a funny story.
But so I mean, I've been in a similar circumstance, but it's hard to take the next step, like you just said, right? Because you can come in, get entitlements, but did you have the ability to get financing?
Right.
The cash reserves?
There's all those things, right? There's all those things. So, I mean, to answer your question, so what's interesting was this is in a town, and I feel like, I don't know if I give away the town, if that makes a difference or not, but basically what happened is...
We have good attorneys on our podcast, so if you do
you can
something
always bleep
wrong,
it out, right? So in this beautiful town of Bayonne, New Jersey.
Ridgewood, New Jersey.
Please bleep that out. When we were going for our development, next door to us, literally down the block next door to us, was another site that was industrial that a group was looking to build a mosque. And I guess there's some sort of like neighborhood association, or not even neighborhood association, a bunch of people got together that decided that they didn't want a mosque in that in the town of Bayonne and didn't want it built, and they went out and they were protesting against it, and they would show up to the meeting, so on and so forth. And when it came to my application, I had nothing to do with the mosque other than, it's we're the same faith. Like, I didn't even know about it until I heard about it in the news that it was down the block from me. But I guess, some certain things, when you go for planning board approval, certain things are public information, and say they looked up the name and it sounded.
So did they think that your 18-unit apartment building was going to be a secret mosque?
That's a good question. It's really something that I wanted to ask them.
Okay.
You know, like if
Well,
they
we
thought
just
that
did today on the remix.
But they
guys,
lumped-
if you're
they-
watching this show, can you tell me if that's what you thought it was, or it was just a name? Or
But they lumped you in, basically.
they lumped me in. They showed up to my planning board meeting. They said they started asking the most like stupid questions, right? Like everybody would go up, you know, because there's a public portion of every planning board meeting where anybody, you know, so one guy comes
say
up,
anything.
say anything, and ask
Yeah.
the guys anything. So we were there going into the night like 10:30, 11 o'clock, right? And they were trying to, for some reason, their strategy was to push my project and also try to get the Mosque denied as if we were related somehow,
Right.
some way. And so they would ask like, oh, so does the elevator, if there's a maintenance issue, who fixed the elevator? We had stacked parking. I mean, parking is another issue when it comes to certain towns. They require 1-to-1, 1.5 to 1, so on and so forth. But, you know, we had stacked parking to make it work where, you know, you could have as many units as we had with the limited amount of space that we had. I think it was like about 7,500 square feet. So they had all these questions about stack parking. Okay, if the mechanical parking system stops working, there's somebody who's going to come and maintain it, so on and so forth. So they were trying to delay it, and you know, the my architect and my attorneys that were up there, they were great sports. They just kept answering their questions. But yeah, so after you know, another lady shows up. She's like, why are they targeting my neighborhood? And I'm like, so you know what, the one of the people on the planning board, he says, I don't understand. The place is right now what it is this vacant lot next to these industrial places, and you have this beautiful building on the rendering. He's pointing the rendering. Why wouldn't you guys want this in your neighborhood? And then, you know, you got the oohs and the ahs and then everything in the crowd. But yeah, that's what it was. Basically, these people came out and they said that, you know, we don't want this project, thinking I was somehow related to that. And guess what happened? We got approved.
Awesome.
Good.
Did you build it?
No, that's
not?
the one I sold. That's the one I sold. Oh, so but that
at
was
that
part of
point,
your
you
question.
didn't want to even be
So why
bothered.
didn't
At
you-
this
why-
point, I was
after
like-
going through all that, why didn't
Yeah.
you build it?
Because I was like, you know, we had the ability to at that point, but we said, you know what? If they're gonna give us a hard time on the approvals, can you imagine going to the site every day and then the stuff that we would have to deal with?
And then having
Yeah.
to deal with the picketers from the other place and all of that
or
stuff.
even just, you know, there's a lot of like not in my backyard kind of stuff, you know, where and then they get like, you know, it gets really like petty, right? Like, oh, where's your
And you were
hard
like, I'm
hat?
walking
And-
around
Yeah.
with
Yeah, that's
800K, so oh well.
that
Right.
was also part of it, right?
All right, so you took that 800K
yeah.
and you said, I'm not going to do any more flips, but now I'm going to go be a developer. Like, what happened next? What got you?
We actually. Oh, so I just want to finish the story about the Mosque too, because that's interesting. You know, they actually did get denied. The Mosque did get denied eventually, and then what happened was there was a lawsuit, and the city ended up losing the lawsuit and paid a huge settlement, and the Mosque ended up getting built.
Awesome.
And I said, I sold that
Yeah.
property, and that got built too, but.
But that didn't turn you off from developing. Then you decided
just-
to start building from the ground
Well,
up.
we took that money and we put it into a different project, which is 28 Room Street. That's in Jersey City, and we built that.
That's the one we came to
Okay.
see.
Yeah, the 24 units.
And how many? 24. So you did build. So you did
So we
take
ended-
money,
Yeah, we did take money.
and then that was your first build, with
Well-
you at the
well,
helm, so to speak.
Yeah. First build for me, and for I mean, this is something. You know, I have more than one business now, but you know, that's something that I worked on with my father, and it was his third.
Okay.
His third at that point.
Now, your business is.
Right. So.
Only the
The
legal
ones you
ones.
can name.
Right. the only ones I can name. So yeah, I don't have any businesses. No, I'm just kidding. So I have a flipping business, which is a flipping and rental portfolio, which is with my business partner, Mustafa, who's not here right now, is on vacation.
That's flop.flip.com.
that's the didntflop.com.
Okay, got it.
Is that-
Please don't go to didntflop.com. I have no idea what site that is.
Is that Montgomery, Washington?
Yeah, Montgomery, Washington.
And that's
right.
mountwash.com, right?
Mountwash.com, yeah.
Okay.
To make it a little shorter, but
Right.
then gets confused with mouthwash, and then I
No, no, no,
But the
got it.
website was
Mount.
available, and
M-O-N-T.
M-O-N-T,
Wash.
right, there you go.
And what do you do? You wash people's houses? What,
Wash
exactly.
people's houses, right? No, so we buy and fix and sell.
Okay.
And, you know, what we found out is I guess throughout this whole ordeal is, hey, let's focus on what we're good at, and which was acquisitions. You know, we're really good at finding the deals, figuring out what's the highest and best use for them, and then executing on those. And so, you know, for a long time we were, buying a lot of different houses in Hudson, Essex County, flipping, and then some of them it would be one of those things where when it comes to land entitlements, right, where, oh, okay, there's this house, and then, oh wait, the house next door is in foreclosure, and it happens to be in a zone where you can build up.
Yeah.
You know, we would start assembling like that, right? And that's kind of how we got into doing more of the entitlements. And even with those, some of the entitlements could take a long time. You're talking about, you know, a year, 2 years. I mean, I've seen things, you know, going for 3 years, right? Like, and we find out that you can as long as you can hold it and make it work, you know, assembling them, that's probably where a lot of the profit is, right? Because you know, taking something that can't, you know, you can't see, it looks like a 2-family house, but it's really the values in the land and
what you can build there,
putting it all together. You know?
So what I'm hearing you say is that yes, you can make great money in flipping, right?
Right.
Awesome. But then you make the buku money in developing, right?
Right. Well,
so these guys are going from flippers and burrs.
Right.
Do we say burrs or do we say buying?
Are you a burr?
Burrs.
It's a little burry in here.
But now they're in development, so now they're going to explode, right?
Right. I mean, I feel like I you know, just to, I guess,
Our
as a
wallets are
disclaimer,
exploding.
as a disclaimer, like, yeah, that
but
sounds
that's where the
great.
money is, right?
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it because, okay, I mean, when it comes to flipping, right, I've always heard, you know, when I was a real estate agent, you know, somebody told me you're as good as your last commission check, right? And when it comes to flipping, you're as good as your last flip, and that was something that, you know, I used to. You know, I told my father, I said, you know, the development where you hold on to the property, right, is where it's at. And then there's a lot of ways to do it, right? When it comes to us, we were getting the entitlements. We're doing the whole thing, right? We're getting the entitlements. We're developing the deal. We're building it ourselves, and then we're managing it ourselves, right? That's one way to do things, right? But if you're talking about, you know, just the developer in the sense of like how we know as a person that puts together the deal, right, and gets it done. Is that better than flipping? Yeah, if you're doing a long-term hold and then you have also figured out a lot of the other parts that go into doing that, I would say yes, it is the next level up, right? But that's not to say being just a buy and hold or just a burr, you know, new word.
Rentals,
right?
Yeah.
Or creating a system that, you know, where you can, you know, wholesale buildings or whatever, or houses or whatever it is, and that can't be, you know, the next level up, right? But I think for the most part, I mean, I've seen agents turn into developers, right? Like you could say that it's you know, the next level up, and you know, might be more money, might be more fulfilling, might be a better long-term plan.
Is being a flipper a good step to development?
Yeah, I would say so.
So then people should become flippers first.
Right. I mean, I mean, so it's a question of how do we define what a developer is? Because
before we even get to a developer, how do you become a flipper?
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, what's the difference?
You take Find Fun Flip at the Center for Real Estate Education with Omar Sharif.
There you go.
So don't you teach a class on flipping, Omar?
We do. So I teach a class, Find Fun Flip, at the C-Free. And we talk about how to get started flipping houses.
Right.
And part of it is always, if you're an agent and you want to get into developments, what's the stepping stone into it, right?
Right.
Because if you can do a flip, I told Eric when we first met, I think flips can be a headache. Development's probably a headache. So I'd rather choose a headache that's worth it.
No, that's a great way to put it, right?
And Eric was like, yeah, that makes sense.
We have invested in stock for Johnson & Johnson. Is that who owns Tylenol?
Yeah, well,
we have
recently,
recently,
you have to with the
after becoming developers, invested in that stock.
We have.
So my choice is Advil, but I mean, to each his own, right? No, so This is a question for you, right? Because I feel like you interchange the word developer, flipper, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What is the difference? I mean, is a flipper not a developer in a sense?
So
I don't think so,
let me
All
speak
right,
from the
yeah.
novice, what I think.
Yeah.
So
What
I
are
look
the-
as a flipper who's taking something that's already built and making it better and changing it.
Okay.
When I'm thinking of developer, I'm thinking of someone who is taking that piece of land and
Yeah.
they are creating something from the ground up,
Okay.
like what you guys are doing at the Phoenix.
Okay, so if it's ground up, then it is a development.
You're developing
whereas
it.
if it's existing, I mean, that's the thing about, yeah, okay, I can see
You
that.
could
What
say
about
value
you?
add. So I would say flip is someone who wants to get into real estate investing, not necessarily ground up investing, because you need special experience to do new construction ground up.
Okay.
But anyone can literally go in and buy an existing house, fix it, and sell it. I think there's very small barriers to entry in
The
that
small
market.
barriers
Right.
to entry. So
agree.
that's how we have to change what we
I
call
agree.
them,
Let's talk
is
about that,
because
yeah.
of
So
how
it's the
the
barriers to entry.
So
Yeah.
when you're a flipper, you're taking something that's already there,
Yeah.
and you're making it better.
And nothing is stopping that person from buying an existing house.
Okay,
Correct.
now what if you were rehabbing, and you see this a lot in big cities, is you're rehabbing an existing project that was industrial or was a different use, and
That's
you're
a
changing it over.
developer.
Is that
So
would be
that's
developer?
That's a developer.
I would say that's a redeveloper.
Ah.
See that? So now we
The
got-
words, yeah.
Yeah.
Omar
It is.
always comes
I
up
would
with
say
the
I would say
gems.
developer.
No, because there's some people who don't do ground up; they redevelop, right?
Yeah.
And you can buy an existing building and
But
redevelop
you don't hear
it.
everybody be like, "Oh, I want to be a redeveloper."
You're right. You're right. Nothing,
But
like,
what
I'm
you
a
guys are
developer.
doing, there was an empty lot. It had nothing. Well, it had nothing there.
Right.
And now
So
there is.
are we redevelopers?
No, you're developers because
Developers.
there was nothing there. It was
Yeah.
dirt, and
I
now
guess-
there is a structure that is coming up.
I guess
Yeah.
that's part of it. We got to kind of figure out what that is, right? But for me, I feel like a developer, it really has to do with, putting together the deal, right? Getting the architect, getting the design work, getting the builder, getting the, the agents that are going to rent it or sell it or so on. For putting the whole thing together, I guess on
But
a
don't you
on
do
a
that for
larger
flipping
scale,
as well?
right?
On a larger
scale. So not just the one house, right? Because you could plan developments. Those are, I feel like, obviously a development.
development.
Yeah.
Toll Brothers, they're developers, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
And they
Omar,
take
but
empty land
Omar
and
is
make it
just
go up.
turning into a developer. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just,
I could say
Omar is developing his development chip.
that's right.
that works. So if someone was to
He's
ask
a
you,
developing developer. There you go.
Developing
Omar is a
developer, that
developing
works.
You should
developer.
change your Instagram handle. I don't know what your Instagram handle is now,
It's
but
real
Developer.
O
Doing it.
state.
Real O state.
that's right, real estate.
Real O
Real
state,
estate,
guys.
right?
Oh.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
So
I
let
think
me ask
he
you.
was flipping when he came up with that one. But anyway,
I like it.
I like it. I think it's catchy.
So do
I don't know if it's a flip or a flop. But anyway,
So part of the flip class, we go over. Everyone asks, how do I get into flipping houses, or how do I get into development, right? So if someone was to ask you, based on your experience, how does someone get into development if they're a real estate agent now?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the way I see it is, I mean, I feel like, there's so many moving parts to whether it's flipping or developing, right? To put all those together, that's really what you're doing, right? You don't have to know how to. I mean, I have a hard time putting up a frame on a wall, right? Like when we're
Yeah.
building houses, right?
Yeah.
Building buildings, right? So you don't have to know everything to be able to do it, right? I've always said this is that if you have the right deal, and let's say you can figure out, oh wait, this is zoned for X, and this is how much that would sell for. This is what a developer, like if you can figure out the deal, the rest of it kind of you can put together, right? So when it comes to, the question is how to get into flipping, or how do you get into?
Like both. If someone says, I eventually I want to be a developer, what recommendation would you give to
I
them?
would say, I mean,
in like a 5-10 year plan.
I mean, if you wanted to get into, let's just say specifically multifamily development,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right?
That's the hot
commercial real estate, right? Because anything over 4 units is considered commercial when it comes to residential, right? Or industrial, that sort
Finance-wise,
of
yeah.
thing, right? So, I mean, I think, So if you were to get into that, I mean, I would say work for a bigger developer. That would be first step, right? When it comes to flipping, I would say go look for deals, right? Go find out. You don't have to. You don't have to flip that specific deal, but you could. That's how you get started, right? You find the deal, and maybe you find real estate over here, and you say, "Hey, look, I got this deal.
You're
Let's
right.
work together." You don't know how many
Good
times.
advice.
or how many times there's
Working
been
for-
people. I just want to just say that there's been how many times where people would find the deal and bring it to me and say, "Hey, let's work on it together," instead of me paying them. And that's the same thing with agents. I've seen it where, hey, instead of me paying me the commission or put me into the deals, all right? Somehow, some
So
way.
look for a partner.
Yeah.
Look for a partner.
Well, so Eric and I are writing a book.
Oh, wow.
Real estate investing from the ground up,
Love
your
it.
guide to growing and building wealth. But we talk about partnerships and we talk a lot about how to find the right partner and how to do the right partner. But you also said work for a big developer, but that's not how you did it. You didn't work for a big developer.
That's right. You didn't.
That's right.
And I was going to comment on that too. It's interesting that you mentioned that, but why would you recommend that to somebody versus?
Because I would say that, it really also depends on how quickly you're trying to get to that point, right?
Exactly.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've done ground up, condos, 2-family houses, flips, every type of, except for like industrial, any type of residential real estate development, flipping, I've done it, right? And
So what does it take? A year or 2 years to build?
a build a
So
certain
average,
project.
it's like 2 years.
I think it's something like depending on the side, but usually, it should be within 18 months, right?
Okay, so then if you go work for a developer,
Yeah.
how many months do you have to work for that developer versus if you just go and try to do something, pass or fail?
Yeah, right. I mean, then it also
The risk,
it's all
everything
about it's also about persistence and resilience. Like if you found a deal or you were sitting, let's say you owned a house that had development rights, and you said, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. Like I'm sure you can. There's figure something out, right? There's so many situations where the landowners that own or homeowners that own in a certain piece of property that's highly valuable, right? Instead of them selling it, made a deal with the developer and said, hey, look, we'll be a silent investor, we'll put our property up or whatever it is, and you guys do the rest of it, and they probably had a better windfall or longer term plan with that way, right? But I mean, to bring it back, is good.
I think the way all of you guys have done it is really what, to me, sounds like the best way.
Mm-hmm.
You've all started with flipping and adding value and the smaller investments. That's where you started, right? And then you worked your way up to the point where you gained all of that knowledge and all of that experience of the little problems that you had with taking something already formed and making it better or making it different. Yeah. And then you go to building it from the ground up, right? That just seems like a way to build on experience, build on making mistakes. That's always great to make a mistake because you don't do it again. Right. And then go for the big gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think when you ask someone for advice, the traditional advice is always shadow somebody, join a big company, learn how it's done. But
is that how you did it?
And I wouldn't do that. Right. I wouldn't even recommend doing it, because the reason is, even if you work for a builder for 5 years, you'll understand the process, but that doesn't mean you'll ever be able to step out of that.
I changed my answer. You got to take the class. Find flip.
There you go.
Fun flip.
Find fun flip. FFF. Please join a class. That would be the first thing to do.
So that's what we discuss in the class. Find fun flip. Is how do you get started without shadowing somebody?
I guess maybe I get into like the words and the semantics too much, right? Like what is flip and what is developing, so on and so forth. But my point is if you want to go do 200 units tomorrow, right? Like you can't. You can't. And let's say,
Agreed.
look. Part of it also, my journey is figuring out what it is that I want to do on a daily basis. What am I jumping up? I mean, I love real estate and I love a lot of aspects of real estate, but what am I jumping out of the bed to do every single day?
That's a good question, Yousuf. What are you jumping out of bed to do every single day?
I mean, I do love flipping in the sense of there's been so many times where people have shook my hand and thanked me for taking this derelict home that was burnt down or was full of rats and all types of things, and turned it into something beautiful that makes the neighborhood better, improves their property value, and they stop having to look at this thing. And that could be a safety issue. I remember one of the houses we did, it was attached. This is in Jersey City, and there were people I guess they were homeless or whatever. They were hanging out in there, and they lit a fire that burnt half of the house down. Wow. And the people next door had to leave their house. Thankfully, firefighters came, so on and so forth. But that, you hear that on the news all the time. How that could have spread, so on and so forth, right? Like, those were one of the people that were like, please,
thank you.
We've been waiting 13 years for somebody to do something. People show up, they talk about it and they leave, and then thankfully you guys are doing it.
So you're like a savior. So you like saving people.
I think that's. I mean, I didn't know this
saving neighborhoods.
This turned into a psychoanalysis, but I guess that's what I wanted to say. Okay. No, I love the idea of taking something that's like derelict and messed up and turning into something new, and then
and making a nice check
from
it.
Productive, and it makes the neighborhood better, right?
Exactly, and obviously, I really feel like when it comes to check, it comes into the thing I was talking about before. It's all baked in, right? The risk is not that. Like the harder the flip, usually that's how it goes, right? The more, as long as your numbers are right.
The harder the flip, the easier the flop. Sorry,
I
can't stop today.
Too, right?
And the bigger the check.
And the bigger the check, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So what's your number one advice to someone out there who hasn't taken the flip class? Like how do they become like one thing they got to do today? They wake up this morning, they got out of bed, they want to be like you, they jump up out of bed. What do they got to do? What's their number one thing?
Open their Safari or Google Chrome and go take out their credit card and go to flip.
No, but really, we all know they should be taking Omar's class. But what should?
I'm sorry. I guess we didn't close kind of like what I have ADD. I'm all over the place. We didn't close kind of like what I had.
How does that affect your developments? Anyway, keep going.
You have to see them, and then you have to.
I have seen one of his buildings. It was amazing.
Okay, all right, thank you. So what I was gonna say is kind of close up what I was saying before is. We were talking about So as a factor of me, growing into what it is that I want to do, what I wake up to do, right? That's part of it too, right? Because I know some flippers that really love the design aspect of it, and so they'll do one project or two projects a year. That's like a gorgeous, beautiful house. How it is Bergen County. We're in Bergen County, so there's a lot of that where there's one big project, and they're into every single detail of it, and that's what makes the difference between some new construction that was just whatever, that was just put together.
So you're talking about like a volume flipper versus like more like they're creating art.
Someone who's a designer.
Designing, but those people are getting top dollar for those houses. They're probably higher end homes versus a $400,000 flip. Those people are more volume. Let's do it.
Exactly. I guess what I mean to say is that that person figured out what it is that they do best, and it's a lot about you look at the way I think about it is an open market, and what are you bringing to that market, right? And that's kind of where your profit is into it too, right? Like if you're a really good, if you're really good at design in this example, then that's what you should focus on, right? How do I make sure that maybe the dollar per hour that I make for my efforts is the highest for the skills that I have? Because there's always going to be inefficiencies, right? I mean, we talk about this arbitrage and that sort of thing, right? We're talking about $800,000 on a land entitlement. Well, there is this inefficiency. I mean, in this case, it's getting approvals from the government, right? There's this inefficiency that could take a year, 2 years, so on and so forth. You have to hire the right people, know the right people, take it to the stakeholders, so on and so forth. So that's where the money comes in when it comes to figuring out what it is that you're best at, right? So and focusing on that. But what my advice would be to answer your question finally is that just get into it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, right?
Yeah.
And
Nike,
then you'll figure it out.
Just do it.
So
that's always been your advice too.
That's my advice. Just do it.
Yeah. So part of getting
just do it, Omar.
That's part of that's part of what we teach in the flip class. So getting into it. How does someone get into it, right? So I think the way in, instead of shadowing or joining a big company, which I fully understand, but I'm completely against that for many reasons.
Okay.
Because if you can do a small bathroom renovation, you can flip a house if you understand just the basics of what needs to be done, right?
I love that.
And if you can flip a house, the first thing you have to do, like you mentioned, is find the deal. Right? Because everyone says, I don't have construction experience, I don't have the money. Well, you can put all that together if the deal makes sense.
Yeah, if the deal makes sense, that's the value right there.
And
that
if you have
can
access
turn that,
to it, right? So then it becomes the art of the deal instead of you trying to be
isn't that a Trump book, The Art of the Deal?
It is. It's a good book.
Yeah.
if I could say that.
You could say it.
Omar always has pearls.
We're
of wisdom.
anti-political.
So it
here.
becomes so we're
Read
more.
books.
I would say all three of us here, who are in real estate, we're more in the sense of art of the deal, right?
Right.
So we're not contractors, we're not electricians, we're not handymen, but for the most part, we could do.
I mean, my hands are handy.
You do have skills in the handyman department.
Again, staying all the way from that.
I know how to use this, my screwdriver.
Oh my God. Keep on going, Omar.
So
Wait, I kind of want to know what happened, but
Just innuendo all over the place.
Okay.
Go ahead.
so
okay, now I get it.
what was I saying?
But again, he was trying to give us what his number one thing is. So he just said, just do it. So now,
Yeah, there you
we
go.
just did it. We've now become a flipper. How do we become a developer? Number one,
And should you become a
advice.
developer?
Right. So
10 words or less. How do you become
am
a
I
developer?
going on and on too much? Is
No,
that
no,
what it
you're
is?
this is
You're like, no,
valuable.
it's got to be 10 words. That's it,
Fine.
right? 10 words or less.
All right, 12 words, whatever. Just how do you become a developer?
just-
What's your number one? How do you become a developer?
So when it comes to multifamily residential, how do you get to that? And if we're using a definition developer, somebody's just doing it ground up, right?
Yes.
You're going from flipping, you're going into that.
Yes, how?
Again,
Number
you're
one.
finding the deal where you can have certain zoning or get approved for certain zoning to be able to build multifamily residential. And then you're doing all the legwork to get that done. And then now you have a deal that has entitlements, approvals for, 18 units, right? Let's say. Then,
We're going on 40 words.
what's that?
So,
You can cut me off at 12
But
and I
basically,
answered the question. I
what
think.
I'm hearing
Yeah.
is that it's all about the deal.
Yeah.
It's all about the deal, whether you're doing the flips or the
Right.
development.
Yeah.
Because it's all of, if you find that sweet deal,
Right.
then the rest can come into place. Am I right?
I think so. You're
Yeah.
saying, because I'm going to do it in 12 words. You're saying, you're a flipper now.
Those are 7.
And
already,
you're
by the
saying
way.
I had to set up where you were.
Yeah, set up.
Find that opportunity.
Find the opportunity.
And let that opportunity guide you.
Guide you to where you
Let
wanna
that
go.
be your future.
There you go. Oh,
Okay.
my God. So
Awesome.
Romantic.
I need to, we need to tell ChatGPT to take your, way that you articulated that, or maybe I gotta call you because that was.
And
good.
actually, that actually
a better
ties
way
in
to
with
put
our
it
story
together.
because we, Omar and I, who are doing our first 24-unit ground-up development, not redevelopment, development project,
yeah.
we found our way because we had a fire.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that opportunity kind of was presented
Yeah.
in that situation.
Right.
We didn't go looking. I
Yep.
didn't go looking to be a developer.
Yep.
And otherwise, I wouldn't be looking to be a developer, to be honest.
Yeah,
But it was
so
there.
It just kind of was there, and it was like, what do we do? And we didn't know you at the time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken us 5 years to do this. But it just happened, and,
Yeah.
and we're excited, and we are. We've already got our seal up, so we're gonna be
Amazing.
We're gonna be
Yeah.
slinging 2x4s and bricks soon.
2
we're very
weeks or so.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
an amazing thing to see
Amazing.
it just coming up out of the ground. It's
Right.
great.
It's
from-
fun to be a developer, Noel.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's fun.
that's the thing. Like, let's just if we kind of take it back a little bit, right? So you're on, and I've seen your project. You're on Main Street, right?
Yeah.
And what there was something there before, and now you're building something that will add units to the city of Hackensack, right? Like you're
City of Hackensack, New Jersey.
you're doing something that is you're a productive thing to society, right? Like in terms of like you're adding units, you're bringing something up. There's commercial there, right? Like that's
Rooftop Lounge.
Rooftop Lounge, and that's really
We are doing the rooftop lounge.
That's
Are you?
that's amazing. That's really exciting, right? So
I'm there.
so yeah, you're right. In 12 words, you were able to put it together. But yeah, the deal comes first, and that's what I find
deal
interesting
comes
is when I
first.
meet other developers, right? And it's interesting to see where they started, right? Whether they were an architect first, or they were an agent first, or they were a builder, or they were in construction, so on and so forth. There's so many different, or they were in finance, right? Like so many different, trades that you could jump in and get to it, and they all have a story similar to yours, right? Where they weren't looking for it, and
Yeah.
and sort of.
All right, so
happened,
development finds you. I like it. That'll be the title of our next podcast. So again, where can our viewers find this gentleman, and where can they find us?
Wait,
So-
that's it?
You want to
So
talk more?
first of
thought we
all,
just got started.
Yousuf, people can find you, Yousuf Khan, out in Mount Wash, montwash.com. That's montwash.com. But of course, as always, you can find the remix on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Just be sure to smash that button and subscribe.
And where can they find the flip class?
Oh, yes. You can
asked.
find this man right here at recareercenter.com, the Find Fun Flip class, okay? He is live and in color when you go to the class, and you can speak to him, and you can get all of his wisdom.
And maybe the two of you, we can do an event, and the two of you can talk about
Like a
flipping and
master
flopping
class.
together.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
We could talk about master flippers.
Master floppers.
Nope, we only flip here. We never flop.
All right, of course.
Awesome. So we'll see you next
It was
time.
great to have you.
Thanks for joining us. And remember,
Thank you for having me.
If you visualize it, you can own it. See you next time.
Love it.
Bye, guys.